Okay, so this is the Brooder setup. I have two pieces of 4x8 7/16 thick OSB that I used, and this was before the lumber prices went through the roof. I've had these for a few years now. What I did was I cut them down into 2-foot strips, and these 4, 3, and 4 that you're looking at are 6 feet long by 2 feet. And that leaves me with two pieces that are 4 foot wide by 2 feet left over on those sheets. And what I did is I screwed those together. This brooder will finish at 6 foot by 6 foot. That's plenty big for our biggest batch we did was 60 birds, it was a little over 60 birds. And that seemed to work out just fine. Okay, here we are assembling the brooder with the plastic on the floor. Pretty easy. Try to do everything on the cheap and recycle, reuse, but all I'm doing is a couple drywall screws holding the sides together and some cheap painter's plastic you can get from any big box store. Throw that down to protect the floor. And then as you can see, I'm just stapling it up on the sides. Don't need it to go overkill with the staples, just a few. Keep that plastic from shifting around. Now the birds, when they get a little bit bigger, they will start scratching. Just make sure you keep a good solid bed of pine shavings, and I would definitely avoid using cedar shavings. Do some research on that. Okay, so what we have going on now, I got the divider wall in, plastic down, and the wood chips on one side here. This year we're downsizing. I think I'm getting 20 Cornish cross chicks, and I'm going to try 5 Pekin ducks this year. So on this side, we'll probably start the ducks off in a tote for a brooder, and probably going to use that tote right there for it. Again, just trying to keep them confined in a smaller area so they can stay warm. You can see I got 2 heat lamps. The 2x4, the recycled 2x4 going across the top, that will I'll be using that to hang the heat lamp from. I know there's a lot of concern about heat lamps falling and starting the wood chips on fire. I'll show you how I do it. String it up by the cord so it can't fall, can't slip. Pretty safe. Like I said, we've been successful in the past doing it this way. We are doing it in the garage. I've seen people on YouTube do it in bathrooms, basements, in their living rooms. That's not for me. These little guys are stinky. They poop and pee a lot, make a little bit of a mess, and from what I understand, ducks are even worse. Again, this is the first year we're trying ducks, so we'll see how that goes. Okay, here we are with the heat lamp setup for the chicks. As you can see, these just clamp on to the 2x4 or whatever you're gonna hang them from. And if you wanted to hang them from something else, they also come with that. What I've done is wrap the power cord around itself and the clamp to the 2x4. So that should never fall, but if it were, it should catch itself and dangle there and not land right into the chips. When we come around, you can see I got these awesome little thermostats. I don't have the power turned on right now to them because no need to. But for 16, 18 bucks, a great way to regulate the temperature of your birds, especially overnight. If you get a cold night, we're getting birds in May in Wisconsin. Hey, it snows in May yet, so cheap little piece of insurance there. And also if it gets hot, which in May we can get some hot days, the birds don't get overheated in here. They can spread out and get away from that heat lamp. I do have 2 of them, one for each side. When we had the large batch of chickens, that one will be used for the 5 Pekin ducks we're going to try out. As you can see, I have an old power cord there, so again, on the cheap, trying to recycle, reuse. That's pretty much the theme of raising these birds. One little tip, your heat lamps, whatever you decide to go with, there's better ones than this. I'm not saying this is the best way, the right way, but save your boxes. Save your boxes, and if you get them mailed to you, save the packaging for storage. Don't keep the bulbs. Do not keep the bulbs inside the heat lamps when you store them. It's a good way to break them. Now these little thermostats, again, just an Amazon thing. I'm not affiliated with them any way, shape, or form, but they can be used. Obviously, this used for seedlings, growing seeds with a heat mat, but it works great for these heat lamps. I'm sure people with amphibians, turtles, whatever, they use these too. Great little insurance policy. Another tip on these heat lamps, please, everybody, be sure to put that guarding on there. Again, that's a safety feature. If this were to fall into your chips, it will not, the bulb will not rest directly onto the wood shavings or wood chips. I keep calling them chips or shavings, and start a fire. Please, please, please be sure to put that on there. All right, waters and feeders. So for waters, for day-old chicks, just use these little quart watering jars, waterers, whatever you want to call them. Very inexpensive. The colors don't mean anything, it's just whatever you prefer. You can also buy those aluminum bases and just put a mason jar on top. You can see my notes on here from our batch of birds. We found that 1 quart is good for 20 chicks for the first 10 days, so they'll go through a quart a day per 20 birds. Now for feeders, there's a few different types of them. These are just the ones that I happen to pick up on sale, of course, because we're always trying to save a few bucks here. This isn't a rich man's game or anything, but that's an 18-inch feeder. Usually start them out on that. Again, I do a batch of 20 to 25. It seems to work out fine. You got to pay attention to them though if they are demolishing that, especially after the first night. You're going to have to add a second one. And of course, as they get bigger, you're going to have to add more feeders or bump up to a larger feeder. If that's a 24-inch, those are 24-inch feeders. Again, just those 4, I was able to do a batch of 60 birds, so you don't need a bunch of them. 2 small ones, 1 large one, whatever you want to do. These are okay. These little troughs with the spinner on them. It doesn't matter what you do, these little birds, they get in poop everywhere, so you're going to end up cleaning those out every morning when you get up to feed them and water them. So one thing I neglected to mention is I have it on a platform. I just happen to have pegboard, but I've used just a plain old piece of wood or 2 pieces of wood in the past. That's going to save you on some wood chips. They like to get water everywhere, so wet wood chips are no good. We'll see how the pegboard works this year. Probably have a little moisture problem underneath it, but we'll deal with that as it comes. I also forgot to mention that I put the thermostat end down close to the base of the wood shavings. I'll probably have to raise that up slightly, like to have it a couple inches off of the wood shavings. That way you get a good reading of the temperature down where the chick actually is. And it's not directly underneath the heat lamp either. So if you can imagine, light gives off a little bit of a cone as it's pointing downward. I have it offset just a little bit, so it's not the hottest point, but it's the majority of the heat you're picking up from that little thermostat. So, and also the chicks will be able to tell you if it's way too hot underneath it, or if it's too cold, they'll all be huddled directly under there. Now I have it sitting up kind of high right now, but when the chicks get in, that will be lowered closer to them. A few inches, not too much. But that's basically the brooder setup. With the small batch of birds, I'm debating I might block this back piece off a little bit just so I don't get any wanderers stuck in corners down here. They will like to huddle up together and they think they're keeping each other warm, but if we get a cold night, we've had a few nights in the teens, if we get one of those, I may end up losing some. So I think just to be safe, I'm going to barricade that. Now the water Waterer and feed placement. Not directly under the heat lamp, but not very far away either. They don't want to have to go very far, lose any body heat. I mean, they are day-old chicks when you get them, maybe 2 days old, depending on how far they have to travel for shipping and when you can get to them. But yeah, all these things to take into consideration for brooding. I'm doing it in a wooden box. I would say a small scale, but if you're doing a really small micro scale, a Rubbermaid tote or any kind of tote, a smaller box, whatever you got will work. Just keep them watered and warm. I will outline what those temperatures have to be for every day. I can't remember exactly what you start them out at, but every day you reduce the temperature in the brooder, kind of harden them off, and after 3 weeks we'll put them out on pasture. Alright, for chick feed or starter, I'll show you guys what I use. Like I said, this is not the only way. This may not be the exact right way, but this is how we've done it and have had great success with it. Done a lot of research on protein percentage, what you should feed them, how fast they'll grow, finish size. Feed prices have gone up a lot this year, which kind of stinks, but it is what it is. Next year we may try something a little bit different with our feed, but we'll still do the 18% crumbles for the chick starter. So yeah, big box store feed, 18% crumbles, chick starter grower, and then they're on that for, I believe, 2.5, 3 weeks, and then we move them down to meat grower, which is, let's see if I can get on this, 21% crude protein. When we did the batch of 60, we finished them. I ran the chick grower for 3 weeks, and we just gave them the 21% protein feed. The other 5, we grew them out to 8 weeks, and we had extremely large birds, 7-pound finished weight birds, over 7 pounds. A lot of them over 6, and a few around 5, 5.5 out of those 60 birds. This year, I think if we're gonna continue with the 21%, it's expensive, but we should be able to get a 5-pound carcass weight. I'm hoping in 6 to 6.5 weeks. We'll see how that goes, but we'll keep you posted on that.